In the annals of military history, there are stories that rise above the roar of battle. These are the tales that echo through centuries, captivating not just for their drama, but for the extraordinary spirit at their core. What follows is one such story, a legend so incredible that it could easily pass for a work of fiction. And yet, every account, every sacrifice, every deed you will hear is part of the historical record, enshrined in the chronicles of Japan's tumultuous past. The year is 1582. In the heart of Japan's Sengoku period, an era of unending warfare, fracturing alliances and shifting power, the land is ravaged by civil strife. Warlords, or daimyo, vie for supremacy, carving up the country piece by piece. Among these fierce leaders, Tokugawa Ieyasu stands out. His cunning and foresight will one day unify Japan. But this is not his story of triumph. It is the story of loss, flight, and the boundless loyalty of those who shield their lord from destruction. Recently, Tokugawa Ieyasu had suffered a crushing defeat at the Battle of Tenmokuzan. Forced into retreat, his exhausted and battered army wound its way through the labyrinthine mountain passes of the region. But they found themselves facing a terrible predicament. The enemy, led by the formidable Takeda Katsuyori, was in relentless pursuit. The crossroads of fate converged upon Iwaya Castle. Perched on a mist-shrouded peak, Iwaya Castle was no ordinary fortress. Carved out of the mountainside, its cliffs drop away into sheer ravines. Whoever holds Iwaya commands the vital mountain routes below, making it a linchpin in any strategy to control the region. But now, with Katsuyori's legions approaching like a dark tide, even this formidable redoubt could not escape the coming storm. Tokugawa faced an agonizing choice: defend the castle and risk annihilation, or abandon it to buy precious time for escape. Into this moment of peril stepped Torii Suneemon, a samurai whose name would become synonymous with unwavering devotion. When Tokugawa announced the retreat, Torii did not hesitate. Gathering 12 volunteers, he accepted a task almost beyond imagination. Hold Iwaya Castle at all costs, delay the enemy at the gates, and buy their lord the seconds and hours he needed to vanish into the mountains. 13 men, against an army tens of thousands strong, each aware that none would return home. May 12, 1582. The siege began as Takeda's massive army encircled Iwaya Castle. On that day, a desperate contest of wits and willpower began. Inside the walls, the defenders knew survival was implausible. Their only weapon was deception. Torii and his men hoisted multiple banners at different points within the castle, creating the illusion of a bustling garrison. Drums echoed from every corner, confusing spies and enemy scouts. Throughout the night, small fires flared across the ramparts, suggesting hundreds occupied the fortress. Arrow volleys were spaced and timed to convince the attackers that they faced wave after wave of defenders. For days, the Takeda army battered the rugged walls, but every advance crashed against a tide of boiling water, stones, fiercely aimed arrows. The 13 defenders fought like phantoms, appearing where least expected, driving back sorties with a courage that sowed doubt and fear in the enemy ranks. Morale in Katsuyori's forces flickered. How many stood within those walls? Was their intelligence flawed? Had Tokugawa left a substantial force behind? But the truth could not be hidden forever. As the second week wore on, cracks began to appear. The supplies within Iwaya Castle dwindled, arrows and water nearly gone. Enemy scouts pieced together the numbers. Katsuyori, enraged by his costly delays, ordered continuous assaults. The siege ground on, a remorseless grind against the shrinking strength of the defenders. On the 15th night, weariness and hunger gnawed at the men in the castle. Torii called a council. Behind shuttered windows, lit by the faint glow of a dwindling torch, he put forth a desperate proposal. One of them must break through the encirclement, bring word to Tokugawa, and report their dire plight. The risk was total, the route swarming with enemy patrols. Death was nearly certain. Without hesitation, Torii claimed the mission for himself. He recalled with quiet conviction, "My lord raised me. It is my duty to lay down my life to repay him. Let me be the one. That night, Torii slipped into the darkness, moving like a shadow along secret paths only he knew. In the valleys below, enemy fires flickered, but he evaded notice. Driven by loyalty, he traversed treacherous footing and eluded countless patrols until, at last, he reached Tokugawa's camp. Breathless but unbroken, he delivered his message. The enemy was at the gates, hope was fading, and the Lord's escape depended on urgent action. Thanks to Torii's warning, Tokugawa altered his escape, avoiding near-certain death. Most would have relished deliverance at this point, but Torii's honor compelled him back toward Iwaya. He attempted to return, and was captured by Takeda's men. Brought before Katsuyori, he was offered a choice: persuade his comrades to surrender and earn his life, or refuse and die. Torii's response was unequivocal. He chose death, but demanded to address the castle. As his message rang across the valley, it was not surrender, he cried aloud, but courage. "Hold firm! Help is coming!" For this, he was crucified within sight of Iwaya Castle. As he hung before his comrades, his voice carried defiance, inspiring those who stood within. The Takeda warriors watched, many moved, all astounded by his resolve. Torii Suneemon passed into legend that day, his sacrifice a piercing beacon in the gathering gloom. The 12 remaining samurai drew strength from their leader's fate. For 5 more days they held out. With each attack they adapted. Arrows when they had them, then rocks, then blades. When everything else was exhausted, they prepared for the end. On the 30th day the final onslaught came. Ladders swarmed the walls, and for the first time enemy warriors breached Iwaya's defenses. In the highest tower, the last defenders chose death by their own swords, seppuku, refusing the dishonor of surrender. When the victors entered, they found 13 bodies arranged in order, armor immaculate, souls unbroken, the ultimate testament to samurai honor. The legacy of Iwaya Castle reverberated through the land. Tokugawa Ieyasu, upon hearing of their sacrifice, wept openly. A shrine was built at Iwaya, and the story of the 13 heroes became legend, recited in samurai academies and sung by generations. Their deeds shaped military thinking and inspired all who heard them. Today, long after the battle, visitors still climb the mountain paths to the ruined castle. Offerings are placed before the stones bearing the names of the 13. Their story endures, a timeless lesson that even in the darkest hour, honor, loyalty, ingenuity, and courage can etch a name into eternity. When duty called for the impossible, it was not a question of how to escape, but when to stand, unyielding, unforgotten, forever remembered. If you enjoyed this historical journey, please support our channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Don't miss our upcoming content.